Honestly, if you had said to me, Khandie, we're going to do a podcast, I would have been like, what? I am not the person for a podcast. You might have realized I talk pretty fast and I was a bit worried. But you know what? I decided that I was in the new year, I was going to do something a little bit scary for me. And there isn't much that scares me. Because if you know my life, I've done a lot of crazy things. I thought, what scares me the most? And that is doing stuff like this, audio. Like video is so much different, but so this is why the podcast technically is going to be video on my YouTube as well as audio on Spotify. I'm going to start very gently, ease myself into it, and I thought I'll wait to the new year, but no, it's me. So I said, no, let's not wait to the new year. So welcome to the first Loud Lens with Khandie, which is essentially me, your host, Khandie, a photographer, a business rebel, an unapologetic loudmouth, if you will. And this podcast isn't about following the rules. It's about breaking them, standing out, and thriving in a creative world that is often noisy and feels saturated. So whether you're here to sharpen your business skills, to learn the art of photography, or just hear some no BS advice on making waves as a content creator, as a creative, then I'm going to tell you now, you're in the right place. So let's get ready to focus in, shoot straight, and stand out loud and proud, because to be honest, I've been doing it for a while and I'm freaking loving it. So I want you to come along with me. And at this point, there would be an intro music, but I haven't got around to that because this is the first one. So welcome to the first episode. Now you can be watching this on YouTube. Some of these I am going to put on YouTube because I think it's nice for people to have that. But this is the first podcast. And I mean, the title speaks for itself, but it's focus, frame, and F the norms while playing loud is the best playing safe. Like, play it loud, play it loud. So welcome. Now I should really say and kick off with what my story is. I'm not going to bore you. I've been interviewed numerous times, but needless to say, I did not start off life saying I'm going to be a photographer legitimately. I didn't think I was going to be a photographer at all. Because if I'm brutally honest, when I was looking around in the space of photography in its early days for me, I saw people doing lots of lovely art nudes. I saw a lot of people doing very cool fashion. And I saw a lot of, like, in my local area, or what should I say, is guy with camera style, girl with camera style, like people just not really pushing and being out there what I wanted, because all I was seeing was family portrait photography. There's no shame on that, but that I knew that wasn't really the kind of portrait I wanted. You know, you remember the white background and they're just kind of laid on the floor, cheesy belly down poses, and I knew that wasn't for me, but I couldn't find many people who were doing what I wanted or I resonated with. And I will say, I tried to be that photographer a while, and I tried to fit, if you like, my square peg self into what was expected of me into the round hole of photographers. Oh, that sounds really weird when I say that. But I wasn't being true to me. And it started to, I will say, affect me, because sometimes I would say stuff and people would be like, whoa, what did you just say? And it was not a common thing, I felt, or at least maybe not what I was viewing or what I was seeing. So over time, I just had the confidence from people around me, like Baron Bratby and his son Niels, to start being more me. And I was able to mix my previous job roles, which was as an entertainer in the burlesque industry and as an ex-military personnel, to kind of make this kind of super kind of power of mine that was, I just don't want to say superpower, I'm not Superman, but you know, this superpower of mine that was to create a very strict business model which had a very flamboyant, unapologetically me vibe to it. But it did take time, and I know I ruffled feathers along the way, because some people don't like it when you make ripples in the pond, and that is okay. They're happy with calm waters. I have never wanted to be that way. I have never wanted to be just a bit meh. There's this great quote from, I believe it's Mae West, that a good woman seldom makes history, or something like that. I've probably ruined that phrase. But I knew that I wanted to be very authentically me. It took a time, because as I was quite young and I was developing into the personality you have now, which love or hate, that's who I am. But I wasn't 100% sure if people were going to like me. And it took me a while to stop worrying about that. And do you know how I stopped worrying about that? When my clients started booking me because of that. Because the more energy of who I was I put out, the more clients who liked that came back to me. They sought out my energy, as you might say, and I sought out theirs, and we became these kindred spirits. We resonated with each other, we vibed with each other. And you know what? It is true when people say there is a client for everybody out there, because I think I found my clients. I also found brands that loved what I did. So that's when I got the Lens Baby ambassadorship. And I'm very proud to be a Lens Baby ambassador for so long. I got that ambassadorship with my work and being creative and standing out. But you know what? I still remember going to exhibitions where, you know, suppliers would talk to me and be like, so what babies do you photograph? I'm like, I don't do babies. And they'd be like, what? And then they'd say, oh, what about maternity? I don't really do maternity. And like, oh, so what do you photograph? I'd be like, oh, beardy blokes in hot tubs in 1970s get up, maybe? That's my accent coming out then, you can hear that. I'm originally from the south of England. I've got a bit of a farmer's accent that creeps in occasionally. And they would always be like, oh, and then you know what? I remember being stood, I remember this moment really vividly at the photo show many years ago. My work was on one of their walls. And I stood back and I saw these two guys loving this picture that I'd taken, right? Really hyping it up. And I was so proud. And I didn't say anything because I was just, you know, I just happened to be in that moment and caught that moment. And I was really buzzing it. And my mate then turned around and said to one of them, hey, you know that she took this picture? And these guys, they turned around and they looked me up and down and were like, so is he your boyfriend or something? And it just hit me so hard that there is no way I could have got this picture if I wasn't having some sort of intimate relationship or something. The implication was that, one, he's my client, that was never happening. But two, what? Why was that your go-to question when you've met the photographer of the work you were just hyping privately, that you decide to ask, was she in a relationship with them? And it just wasn't for me. Now, I'm not hating on all male photographers, because believe me, so many of you have been incredible. I can name drop so many. I mean, I have, you know, I've already said, like Niels Bratby, Baron Bratby, Chris Ord, Gavin Hoey, so many people who I've spoken to have always made me feel incredibly welcome and boosted me and given me great advice. So over time, thanks to those people, I knew that I had to start making bigger ripples if I wanted to get into the spaces that I felt that I needed to be in. Being me, Kamal, wasn't for it. I needed to be loud to go in. Now, I also need to be loud and knowledgeable. So I'm very fortunate to have the brain capacity that I do, that I absolutely love reading and finding information out. And one of the things I love giving is education, and hopefully not in a patronizing way, but educating people and sharing the knowledge that I have. I always had that whole no BS. That's why I wrote my book, Take the Effing Lens Cap Off. If you haven't, please check it out. It's on Amazon under Khandie Rees. It's been a top seller on Amazon within its first 2 weeks. It's mind blowing how popular it's been. And people really resonate. And I knew to have the balls essentially to write that book meant I was really cementing who I was as a person and as a photographer. So I've had immense struggles with imposter syndrome. I've also backed that up and give myself a good foundation, as you say, with my knowledge base. I do not know everything. Absolutely do not. And I still seek advice out. But what I do know is a lot about business. In my business, I know a lot about my business and what I need to know in my business, but I don't just leave that. I keep educating myself, not just on photography, but business, because I think it's incredibly important that you understand business very well. And I'm going to go into that in more podcasts and everything else. But yeah, so that's kind of my story. I messed up a lot on the way. We don't need to talk about, we'll get into that more. But I want to talk now about why loudness really, really helps you stand out. Because I think a lot of people worry in this industry, which is heavily saturated, that they're not standing out. And I'll be honest, most of us aren't, because if you look on Instagram, we're kind of following the same trends over and over again. This is the thing, once you start following a trend, okay, you're already behind it. A trend is what everyone jumps on when they see one person does success. So they mimic that. You're chasing that one person. And I have discovered that if you are constantly looking for the trend and then doing the trend, such as the blurry photo for weddings, yes, it's a nice idea and it's great. And hey, I did one and it got me 20 odd inquiries. But the problem is everyone then started doing it and I wasn't the first. And then I'm like, what else do? I don't want to be known as just the blurry photographer, because now, dare I say it, that blurry picture is horrifically out of date. And I didn't want to be put in that. So instead of following trends, I found things that I like that make me happy. So I didn't go constantly consuming photography art. I didn't just go in and go, right, what's every photographer sharing? You know, what's every photographer? I started looking at what inspired me around. So maybe my sense of fashion, or books I was reading, or movies I was watching, or art shows I was going to. I wasn't just going on Instagram or TikTok and scrolling like so many people seem to do, doom scrolling, I think you call it, on Instagram. I was searching for something else. And I'll be honest, I couldn't tell you 100% when it clicked with me that it helped me to unfollow a lot of people. Instead, I found myself following stylists. I found myself following artists more than I did photographers. There are certain photographers I love and I will always follow them. But searching out people who perhaps weren't in my field is what inspired me more. So yes, I think jumping on a trend can be really helpful, but you shouldn't just always be looking for those trends. So if you want to be authentic and attract the right clients, you kind of got to get loud in yourself. You've got to understand that there are so many people stood there waving their business cards, going, me, pick me, hire me, I'm the photographer for you. And you know what? If you go looking for headshot photographers, you're going to see hundreds of them. You only have to look at a Facebook group asking for a wedding photographer and see the hundreds of people that apply. The thing is, who stands out? Is it the person that just whacks a quick picture up, or is it the person who maybe made a video? Is it the person who has a funny way of writing? Is it the person who has this great advert that's very colourful and talks very openly about who they are? I don't know. But the idea is start being a little different to what it is. And if you can't be different because you haven't learned, don't worry, because nobody goes, today I'm going to be different. That's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be completely unique. It doesn't work like that. It's a very slow process that you learn from. And it isn't just quickly done. For me, I found that going back and looking at what imagery do I sort of personally like? So I went, you know what, let's time change my logo. I did the stupid logo that everyone did, which was, well, everyone at the time did. Spent loads of hours looking at a logo, settled for this grey purple tone and thought that was it. If you met me, I'm not a grey tone gal. I wear vibrant colours. I love colour. So why is my logo like this? And it was because everyone else's was doing it and I thought that was what we all needed to do. So I changed my logo and I've gone for this very ostentatious orange and pink tones, very retro 70s, in your face, psychedelic kind of stuff. And I was like, I love this. This is what I want. When I did the speech at the photo show, I handed out these little booklets that were designed by my friend Luna, adorned with attitude, by the way. She designed them for me. She's graphic design, amazing. That were very bolshy, in your face. And I wrote on them, I don't want to know your why. I just want you to do it. And I think that's what my philosophy has always been. I don't know and I don't care what your why is. Let's just do it. And I know that makes people feel really uncomfortable to say that. Like, your story, your journey is incredible and unique to you. But I want to get the job done and I want to do it with passion. So can we just get it done? Let's do it. We could sit for hours talking, but let's get it done. And I think that's where my mind changed. Like I spent all this time listening to podcasts and people talking about, oh, so what's your why? What's your purpose? And I'll be brutally honest, if I'm gonna really cut it down to the bare bones, I want to pay my bills doing a job I actually enjoy. So that means I have to have my bottom line in my foresight. I need it to always be there so I know what I'm doing. So as much as I could go back and forth with a client for days and hours talking about their why, and I think I want to get the job done. So that doesn't mean I negate from their why, but I want to get the job done. So let's just do it. Let's get it done. Let's not sit and dwell while the energy is pumped, while we're buzzing our tits off. Let's go get it done. And that's what I started to do. I stopped waiting for the moment to be right and just doing it there and then. Get it done now. Let's do it. I could sit and plan, but you know what? If it goes wrong this time, or I need to change something, I'll know for the next time. However, I know so many people plan these big shoots and then never get them off the ground because they're worried or they have, oh, it's not the right time. Get it done. And what I found was the more crazy my shoots became, I say crazy in a very limited capacity, all right? They were, putting our guy, a bearded guy in a hot tub in a conservatory while he was playing a ukulele, get it done. I got it done. People loved it and I got bookings. Did they all want to be in a hot tub? No. Did they want to be with a ukulele? No. But did they like what I did? Yes. One guy booked me for all his business headshots at his solicitor's firm, because he saw the hot tub pictures and he's like, I love him, I just love your energy, can I have you? And then suddenly I realized that if I did these crazy portraits, the other people would come along, and they would. So I knew that there's no point in playing small in a very noisy world and a very loud world, particularly in the photography creative industry. You had to just play your own tune, sing your own song. You had to do your own thing. Now, it's very easy to sit here and say, oh yeah, I did everything. But there were people that inspired me. I would be wrong and I would be absolutely out of my thing if I did not say there were people who inspired me. So you know what? Brandon Wolfall inspired my early days because I loved his use of colour and his use of bokeh. And you know what? Did everyone replicate him? Yes, they did. Did I buy his book? Yes, I did. Did I buy the fairy lights? Yes, I did. And even his style has evolved. You know, do I adore Annie Leibovitz? I will down a hill and say I love that woman beyond belief. She has this beautiful sort of slightly melancholic vibe that runs through her imagery, in my opinion. Do I love her work? Yes. Is it anything like mine? No. But what I like is the grandiose scale of her and her attitude to getting her work done. I watched this documentary on her where she just said, I don't know the technical stuff. I'm probably really badly paraphrasing it now. I just get it done. I use it. I know what it does. That's what I like to do. And I just thought that resonated with me. I don't want to be bogged down too heavily with the technical side. I want to get the job done. I want to enjoy the process. So, you know, I took a leaf out of Annie Leibovitz. There are people whose work I think is absolutely stunning. There's so much great work around, and I still discover photographers and artists now that I absolutely love. And there are people who are highly regarded whose work I don't like, but I like their attitude to their work more than perhaps their work. There are people who I've hired to help me in my career. I happily say I paid Chris Ord to help me with my work, and he gave me some great advice, and his work is stunning. His work is beautiful. Is it the same as mine? No. Do we have anything similar? I wouldn't say we do, but I like the way he does his business. He has such a distinctive voice, and I learn more from people who seem to have a very good brand. Maybe I don't like their photography. That's not to say I don't like Chris's though. I don't like the photography. It doesn't resonate with me, but the way in which they run their business does. And I think that's what's really important. That should be your takeaway, because if you constantly love someone's work, you're going to be always inspired by that. And then you're constantly emulating their work, I feel. So you have to you have to fill your knowledge base with a variety of people. And I find that I drift more towards photographers who have a good business model than I do perhaps a very strong portfolio. That's not to say I don't have some great people. I mean, I remember there was one product photographer whose name completely escapes me now, who does just the way in which he does his YouTube. If you know who he is, please let me know, because I've completely forgotten. He sits there with a cup of coffee and he does it live on YouTube, and he just talks to you through it, and he does it, and he's got this really like chilled out, like it's just so like you're in his space and he's talking to you like we're mates, and he just does this great way of doing it. I think he's in Belgium or Denmark, somewhere like that, and he just does this beautiful way, and it's so uniquely him. I haven't seen anyone else behave like that. And I remember watching him. I wish I could remember his name. I remember watching him thinking, this is great. I have no interest in what he's actually photographing, but I was absolutely enthralled by the way he presented himself and the way in which his energy felt. So for me, he was absolutely a breath of fresh air for me. Absolutely. So if we are going to start being more authentic and loud and attract those right clients, it has to be a loudness that is appropriate for us. So if you are naturally an introvert, maybe you aren't going to be massively ostentatious, but that doesn't mean you can't be vocal. It just has to sit comfortably with you, because I think if you're too far out of your comfort zone to the point where you're absolutely terrified, you're not going to enjoy the experience, and you're just going to become a recluse even more. So for me, every now and then I'm going to just randomly try something new, and there's no shame in it, there's no qualms in it. No one, it's not on a client's work, it's a personal portfolio work. And I'm going to try and do something a bit more unique for myself. I want to stand out more. So I do these little projects. Currently, I'm doing one called The Human Tapestry, which is about my hometown, well, my current town, should I say, where I'm photographing the people in the town who volunteered to come forward. And the idea is that everyone who sees these pictures tries and links themselves to somebody in the pictures because they recognize them. So it might be, oh, she served me at the coffee shop. Oh, she goes to the same hairdresser as me. Or he's the road sweeper. I know that. And it's the idea that they make the if you like, the threads to the pictures to make the tapestry. And there's all these different people, you know, and I'm loving it. And it's a very simple headshot. But am I making waves? Yeah, bizarrely I am, because they're not ostentatious headshots. But the amount of people are getting hyped up about them, the amount of people are saying, oh my God, I love these are great, can I book in? And I'm only doing 2 days of it, but already I'm getting bookings based on that. Did I do that with intention? Possibly in the back of my mind, I thought it was a marketing thing, but I actually wanted a personal project that really stripped away all the crazy colors that I use and say, could I be a photographer that could do this stuff? So what I'm doing is creating a project that is, you know, I wrote to the local press, I had it put in the local newspaper. I started to make waves for myself in a small way, because you can all write to your local newspaper. It's not that hard. They've literally got, send us a story on most local newspapers, and you can send them a story. Why can't you tell them about what you're doing? When I won awards, I tell people what I'm doing. You know, those are little ways to make waves. Why not put out a press release? I don't know how to write one. ChatGPT, you can write out one and it can tweak it. Just make sure you tweak it yourself, because ChatGPT is sometimes not the greatest. But you start to build a brand, and the way in which you stand out is because you are the one making the waves. Don't try and think that you have to wait for somebody to give you the space. Take the space, take the room, take that step forward. I mean, you know, I sit here in a very privileged position. I mean, now I can create this podcast. You're probably hating it. I mean, if you do love it, I hope you love it. I hope also you realize how much passion I have for this. So I want you to try and think about, what is it about your photography that sparks a fire in you? I want you to think about, what is it about you that draws clients to you? And if you don't know the answer, that's okay. But really think about, okay, who can give me answers? My clients. Ask them, how did they find you? Or when you hear them make compliments about your work, make a note of it, because you might find that in those notes are compliments. One of my biggest compliments I have is from clients who say, oh, my kids are so relaxed around you. They're zen and they struggle and you just make them so relaxed. I have that as an immense privilege. I think that is absolutely incredible. I will sit on the floor with the kids. I will engage kids, but I also work with adults who are equally zen, and you know, they come to me and I teach. As you may remember, I teach at a traumatic brain injury center for a very long time. And I want people to vibe with my energy. I'm very passionate. I'm very aware of my surroundings, but I'm also not afraid to take those risks to make the ripples in my pond a little bit bigger. So today, I hope you enjoyed this first podcast. I hope that you push out a little bit and you are aware that lots of what you hear in the photography world is a pile of nonsense, which may be this podcast as well, because honestly, most of us are just trying to make some sort of ripple in our own ponds. Let's go out there, make some bold moves, and don't forget that loud will always be legendary, just as long as you back it up with knowledge and compassion. I hope you've enjoyed this first one from the Loud Lens, and let's see you all in the next one, or hear you in the next one. Thank you.